Hey folks, David Stewart here. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Just a reminder, hey, there's a new album of some of the improvisational music I recorded back in 2025. You can check that out at zulonline.com. I also want to mention, while I have your attention, that I'm going to link a GoFundMe down below in the description. This is for a couple of friends of the channel. Morgan Newquest, she's an editor. She's Twitter mutual. Her and her husband ran Empire or Silver Empire Publishing. Their daughter is having open heart surgery. I think it'll be actually in a couple hours ahead of when I'm recording this, but because it's in a distant location, they've incurred some costs. So if you're feeling charitable towards that cause, I would go ahead and encourage you to click that and maybe help them out a little bit. Now, what I want to talk about today is the fog of war. So recently, there was another strike on Iran. Lots of people want to rush in and give an opinion on this is bad, this is good. It was definitely on my bingo card for 2026 because I felt like they did something in 2025 and it worked, so they might take it to the next level, and I guess they did. The thing about the fog of war in this context is things are changing all the time. Not only are things changing all the time, is even though this was on my bingo card, I didn't see this coming a couple days ago. I didn't know anyone else who did. It really felt like almost out of nowhere. They did way more with these surgical strikes than I really would have anticipated. So we don't know how this was put together as I'm recording this now. And it'll be a long time before we really figure out all the details that led up to the attack, as well as what happened following the attack. What all the shakeout from the retaliation, firing missiles at various other countries and that sort of thing, how that's actually going to shake out. It takes a while to figure these things out. And one of the things that I think war creates or feeds into is that we used to call it a 24-hour news cycle. Now it's more like a 2-hour news cycle where there's a constant update of information, and the desire to have that information and to feel like you're informed can be addictive. Even though you're in a place, if you're a civilian at least, where there's no information that you're going to be getting, which you're going to really be able to act on in any meaningful way for the vast majority of people. And this is true across the board for almost every news story that you get, is that the information, although it's compelling in the way that like a story is compelling because it is a news story, it's not providing you a lot of information that's really actionable. This is why I get a little bit annoyed when I hate to like always complain about baby boomers, but when baby boomers get upset that you don't watch the news as much as they do, they're like, you got to be informed. It's like, how does the information that you're receiving for like 6 hours a day change your decisions? And it's like, it doesn't change any of your decisions. So it's not consequential information for you. And as weird as that is to say, like, it's war, like people are dying. It's like, I care, but that care is more remote than the things I can actually affect right now in this hour of my life, in this day of my life, in this physical location where I've been placed. Not only that, but the realities or the information that you're going to get about the reality that happened are going to be different tomorrow than they are today. So if I rushed onto YouTube to make some sort of analytical statement or to say something about the attack, chances are the details that I'm talking about are going to be different, maybe even by the time the video goes live. Forget about next week. Things could be completely different next week. And what do you do when your predictions are wrong, or you didn't have enough information, or the situation ends up going in a completely different direction from what you anticipated? People get on this little emotional roller coaster with the news, and I see it all the time, where they get really excited about something happening. Maybe they're feeling very gung-ho about the strike on Iran. Maybe they're feeling really afraid of that. Maybe they feel like, the the Gen Y fatigue from war, because so many people, we lost several generations of people, dealt with 20 years of war in the Middle East, not really excited for more of that, right? Maybe there's a narrative that's really compelling to you about Israel, or about the Israel lobby and their effect on Congress and on the president. All of these things I think are interesting to think about, but do they change how you're going to make decisions right now in your life? Chances are they're not. So it's not really going to be consequential information. And is this information even going to be accurate in a week? Probably not. Is it going to be accurate in a year? Now we're starting to talk where there's enough of a distance of time and there's been enough time for facts to come out that you can actually have enough context to understand a really complex historical event like war. I think about this with the Afghanistan war. And if you want to call it a war, extended occupation, extended conflict, it's hard to even put what the United States government, the United States Army or military was doing in Afghanistan in a nice little box. But years after that started to wind down, before we even had that disastrous pullout of Afghanistan, there started to be enough information that people could actually create kind of a historical analysis of what had happened in the war. This happened and this happened and this general's doing this. And one of the impressions I got was like, wow, the leadership really was kind of clueless about the whole affair, more so than you would have thought of if you were living in the moment of that, where, okay, the generals are doing this thing and they have a mission, and it turns out it was a whole lot less defined than we thought, and they were doing a lot of things that a lot of people didn't know about until months or years later. And I would just say this is probably going to be another one of those events that's similar to that we're going to get a lot more facts that come out over the coming days, weeks, months that will actually contextualize what's going on, as well as seeing the fallout of what happens. It's kind of like the, capturing the president of Venezuela. Very interesting and kind of unprecedented political move. And how do we know how that's going to shake out? If it's really unprecedented, it's very difficult to predict. So lots of people might be rushing in to say, do a prediction and hopefully explore the option of being right there. I'm not going to do that because you're kind of in uncharted territory. The United States government hasn't done action like this really as long as I've been alive, and maybe for the past 60 years, there's been a completely different paradigm for how these sorts of things have been handled, how they've been approached, what people think is the proper way to do things. I do think that this idea of a rules-based international order is kind of farcical when we're looking at not just the actions of the U.S., but also other countries. I think it's more like the realists have been right all along, that the real order that emerges between international governments has to do with balance of force and power and interests and things like that, not being able to create some sort of super government or super rules or conventions that will help people to limit their warfare in a way that makes it less deadly or makes everybody more civilized or things like that. I think that that's always been BS, but now I think there's more actors like the Trump administration that are willing to just not try to pretend that and to do the things that they feel like they need to do anyway. So I think this idea of like this, international law or something like that, I think that idea is starting to be on its last legs. But anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts down below about this idea in particular, like this fog of war. If you have some feelings about Iran, you can mention those. And I do find it interesting. Last thing I'll say is that there's this Trump effect that happens whenever there's whenever Trump does something, is that people who are really like Trump will kind of realign their expectations and their model of reality to fit what Trump did. So, we had years of like, we can't have war with Iran, and then Trump becomes president, and we basically have war with Iran, but it happens in a completely different way from what people expected, 10 years ago. And so people kind of update their model. They realign like, okay, this is a different thing and maybe it's working, so I should probably just trust the person that makes this work, right? It's really interesting to watch, is that people do sort of update their models in real time when Trump defies expectations or does things differently from how he said he would have done them 10 years ago, things like that. So that's an interesting effect to watch. I'm not sure if that's the power of Trump's persuasion or if that's just the fact that people really like Trump or are really willing to let him do things before they judge. I know I thought this about tariffs, right? Like I grew up as a, with this economic view that like tariffs, like dropping tariffs unilaterally is good. And then I saw what Trump did with tariffs and it's like, oh, it turns out that the end result, which was lowering foreign tariffs, ended up working, right? So certainly I have been subject to this. Well, my reality model has to be kind of readjusted to take into account what Trump did and what the effects of it were, because what he did and what the effects were different from the predictive model, like the past software version, the predictive model that I was operating on. So anyway, I would love to have your thoughts on that in particular as well. And I will see you all next time. Have a great day. Check out that GoFundMe down below if you're feeling charitable. And there's the new album, Dusk Eternal. You can actually listen to that for free on my music channel. So you can go check that out on the music channel as well. And I will check you all next time.